Power does not begin with the conquest of others. It begins with the conquest of the self. When a nation turns inward before it looks outward, it sets the foundation for lasting strength. India's rise was not sudden. It was not explosive. It was gradual, like the unfolding of a lotus. And the first reason behind this rise, the untold force behind it, was stillness, a kind of stillness that is often misunderstood. Not silence for the sake of muteness, but silence as a form of deep listening, not inactivity, but precise awareness before action. This is not simply a philosophical ideal. It is a strategy that has worked for millennia. In India, this principle was not an abstract one. It was applied through practices that trained individuals to find inner balance before attempting to control their outer world. Yogic traditions, meditative techniques, breathwork, these were not side practices. They were primary, they were the real training ground for power. The battlefield of life, India understood, is first fought inside the mind. If you cannot be still, you cannot see clearly. If you cannot see clearly, your action will be reactive, impulsive, and blind. Such action may seem powerful for a moment, but it collapses under its own weight. India's early sages, thinkers, and spiritual warriors cultivated stillness as a discipline. They went into forests, not to escape, but to sharpen perception. They closed their eyes, not to ignore the world, but to see it more fully. With eyes closed, the senses internalized. With the breath slow, the mind settled. In that state of stillness, they could hear truth more clearly than in the noise of politics or battle. This stillness gave them insight not just about the self, but about others. It allowed them to understand the subtle patterns of life, the movement of seasons, the rise and fall of empires, the tendencies of the human heart. And when you understand patterns, you do not need to force outcomes. You simply align your actions with the right timing. This is why, even after centuries of foreign invasions, colonial rule, and internal turmoil, India never lost its center. It returned to stillness again and again. That was its strength. In the modern world, we often confuse motion with progress. We believe if we are busy, we are moving forward. But busyness without clarity is just exhaustion. India's power came not from rushing into action, but from pausing, observing, waiting for the right moment to move. This internal poise became its advantage. When India launched its space missions on a fraction of the budget of other nations, it was because stillness teaches how to be efficient, how not to waste energy. When Indian thinkers and entrepreneurs lead with precision, it is because stillness teaches focus, not scattered attention, but laser-like attention. And in geopolitics, this stillness translates to restraint. India does not react to every provocation. It studies, assesses, considers, and when it moves, the movement is rooted in depth, not emotional chaos. This inner stillness is not passivity, it is mastery. The same principle can be seen in ancient martial arts. The fighter who flails is weak. The one who stands calmly, watching, breathing, grounded, that is the one who controls the outcome. India's culture teaches this from childhood, through storytelling, rituals, daily routines. Whether it is the silence before prayer or the pause before a decision, the idea is the same. Real power arises when you act from stillness, because only then are you free from impulse. Only then are you not a slave to fear, anger, or ego. And this kind of freedom is the foundation of a powerful nation, because a nation is made of individuals. When individuals cultivate stillness, their choices become wiser, their habits become cleaner, their goals become more aligned, and such alignment creates momentum. Not chaos, not resistance, but natural forward motion. In stillness, one becomes more aware of subtlety. India became a master of subtlety. It developed complex philosophies not to impress, but to understand. Concepts like dharma, karma, non-attachment, and inner balance were born from this stillness. And these are not simply spiritual ideas, they are blueprints for sustainable power. For example, non-attachment is not a denial of ambition. It is the ability to act without being destroyed by success or failure. Imagine a nation that can move forward regardless of whether the world applauds or criticizes. That is strength, and that comes from stillness. Stillness breeds neutrality. It allows a person or a country to make decisions based not on emotion but on clarity. This is also why India has long produced sages, scientists, strategists, and poets. These roles require the ability to go inward, to sit with an idea until it reveals its essence. Without stillness, this depth of creation is not possible. The same applies in modern innovation. Whether in technology or diplomacy, it is not the loudest voice that succeeds. It is the clearest one. India's growth in the 21st century, its emergence as a global player, is not the result of noise. It is the result of alignment, and alignment is born from stillness. That stillness is the secret that allows long-term vision, because in the quiet we remember who we are. A nation that forgets itself chases the goals of others. A nation that remembers itself sets its own path. Stillness is remembrance. Even in the current global landscape, when the world is chaotic and fast, India's calm confidence is what draws attention. The ability to navigate complexity without panic, the capacity to withstand pressure without collapsing. These are not skills taught in textbooks. These are skills cultivated in stillness. They are born in early morning meditation, in quiet reading, in respectful silence before speaking. They are born in ancient temples and modern labs. They are born when the noise is put aside and presence is embraced, and presence is power. Stillness also allows a nation to stay grounded in values. When a society is moving too fast, it begins to forget its roots. It starts mimicking others. But in stillness, a nation remembers what matters: family, character, discipline, contribution. These are the pillars upon which true strength is built. Not brute force, not fast results, but steady, stable, centered living. This is the foundation that allowed India to become powerful, not just economically, not just politically, but spiritually, psychologically. And it all begins not with shouting, not with marching, but with sitting down, breathing deeply and asking, who are we? Where are we going? What do we really want to create? Only a still mind can answer these questions truthfully. Only a still nation can rise with purpose. And only through stillness does true power begin. A river does not fight the stones in its path. It flows around them, adapting, transforming, and continuing forward. The same can be said of India's unique strength, the ability to hold contradictions without breaking. Power for India has never meant uniformity. It has meant the mastery of paradox. While many nations attempted to create strength through sameness, India found power in diversity. This diversity is not surface level. It is deeply woven into every part of life: language, religion, food, art, climate, and philosophy. Yet, despite these infinite differences, the country moves forward as one. This paradox, unity in diversity, is not a slogan. It is a lived truth, and it is one of the untold reasons behind India's rise. To understand this, one must first understand what it means to coexist with difference. Most people are comfortable only with what mirrors them. The moment something unfamiliar arises, they either fear it, reject it, or try to change it. India, on the other hand, has a long history of embracing difference without needing to erase it. When new cultures arrived, they were not seen only as threats. They were observed, studied, integrated. The Vedic traditions, Jain principles, Buddhist insights, Islamic art, Christian values, and Sikh courage, none were erased, all were added. Like rivers joining the ocean, they merged into a complex whole. This capacity to absorb without losing identity became a source of resilience. Resilience born from inclusion is much stronger than resilience born from resistance. When you include, you are not weakened by the unfamiliar. You are strengthened by it. A single language society may appear efficient, but it is vulnerable to disruption. A multi-language society learns flexibility. A society with one mode of thinking can progress only in one direction. A society with many thinkers progresses in all directions. This flexibility is the secret to adaptability, and adaptability is the root of long-term strength. India has over 1.4 billion people. With them come hundreds of ways of thinking, dressing, believing, worshipping, and celebrating. In such a setting, conflict could be constant. But instead, India cultivated a culture where differences are not seen as enemies. They are seen as expressions of the same source. The divine wears many faces. The truth speaks many tongues. This mindset requires deep training in acceptance. It requires inner calm to sit beside someone who disagrees with you and still see their humanity. India has practiced this for thousands of years. This practice did not make it weak, it made it wise. When a nation is used to balancing contradiction internally, it is better equipped to navigate global contradictions. It can sit at international tables and listen without ego. It can lead without needing control, and it can adapt without losing self. In practical terms, this unity in diversity has fueled India's success in business, education, diplomacy, and innovation. It is common to find Indian teams composed of people from 5 or 6 different linguistic or cultural backgrounds working seamlessly toward a common goal. This is not coincidence. This is training. From a young age, Indians are exposed to variety. They hear multiple languages. They grow up with neighbors from different faiths. They eat different foods depending on region, festival, or season. And so they learn early, difference is not danger. Difference is depth. This early exposure develops emotional intelligence. It teaches tolerance, flexibility, negotiation, and patience. These are not soft skills. These are leadership skills, and they are becoming more essential in a world that is increasingly interconnected and unpredictable. This principle can also be seen in India's digital revolution. The nation developed one of the world's most sophisticated digital identification systems. Aadhaar, in a landscape filled with diversity and complexity, different states, systems, and demographics were not barriers. They were challenges to be embraced. Instead of uniformity, India embraced customization. Technology adapted to people, not the other way around. This is a reflection of the deeper philosophy. Don't destroy difference, design with it in mind. Even politically, India remains a working democracy despite its vast scale. Every voice does not agree, yet every voice has a space. Debates are intense. Elections are chaotic, but the structure holds. That holding is not accidental. It is the result of a civilizational habit of allowing contradiction. The idea is not to suppress tension, but to create a container that can hold it. This is a different kind of power. Not the power that dominates, but the power that includes. It is softer, but more stable. It is quieter, but more lasting. Spiritual traditions within India have also modeled this unity and paradox. For example, the same society that bows before a deity can also question the existence of that deity. Devotion and doubt can live side by side. Faith is not destroyed by questions, it is deepened by them. This freedom of inquiry has allowed Indian thought to remain alive for thousands of years. When an idea becomes rigid, it dies. But when it welcomes its own questioning, it evolves. India does not demand one answer. It allows space for many answers, knowing they may all point to the same source. This openness is also a psychological strength. It prevents the nation from falling into fanaticism. Fanaticism is born when one truth is forced on everyone. India has resisted this. Not because it is perfect, but because its memory is long. It remembers what happens when inclusion fails, and so it continues generation after generation to renew its commitment to pluralism. That commitment is not a weakness, it is one of the deepest expressions of inner power. Because only a confident person can allow others to shine. Only a confident nation can allow multiple voices to sing. Economically, too, diversity becomes advantage. Different regions specialize in different industries. Some are technology hubs, some are agricultural centers, some are spiritual pilgrimage sites. Each contributes to the whole. This decentralization spreads risk and multiplies innovation. Instead of relying on a single strength, India draws from a diverse well. This makes it less vulnerable to shocks. If one sector falters, another rises. That is how ecosystems survive. And India, more than a political union, is a living ecosystem. Culturally, its music, cinema, literature, and cuisine all reflect this blend of influences. No art form is pure. Every form is a fusion, and this fusion is what gives it universal appeal. When an Indian song plays globally, it carries with it layers of meaning. When an Indian dish is served, it tells 1,000 stories. This storytelling through culture becomes a soft power, subtle, persuasive, and far-reaching. It draws others in, not through domination, but through invitation. In times of crisis, this inner harmony proves itself. Whether facing pandemics, natural disasters, or economic shifts, India does not collapse into civil war or fragmentation. It stumbles, adjusts, then stabilizes. The people know how to hold tension. They have been doing it for centuries. That capacity to hold is what allows the nation to rise again and again. So India's power is not the loud, explosive kind. It is the quiet strength of a banyan tree. Its roots tangled, its branches spread wide, sheltering all who come beneath. And beneath that tree, no one is asked to become the same. Each is welcome as they are. That is the secret. Not sameness, but sacred difference held together by an invisible thread of belonging. And that belonging is the foundation of India's rising power. There is a kind of power that cannot be measured by numbers, land, or weapons. It is subtle, unseen, and often ignored by the world obsessed with material growth. Yet it is this invisible power that has carried India through centuries of change. This power is spiritual technology. While the rest of the world invested in machines and external tools, India looked within and began developing an inner science. The science of breath, of energy, of consciousness. It was not about belief but experience, not about following but realized. And this silent engine has influenced every aspect of Indian life, shaping its resilience, creativity, and long-term progress. From the earliest texts of the Vedas to the profound insights of the Upanishads, India has treated the inner world with the same seriousness that others reserve for the outer world. It mapped states of mind like others map continents. It studied the fluctuations of thought like others study stars. And in doing so, it created techniques that allowed individuals to transform themselves from the inside out. These were not superstitions or passive rituals. They were systems of transformation. The practice of yoga, for example, is not just physical movement. It is the alignment of body, breath, and mind. Through discipline, one becomes aware of energy. Through awareness, one gains control. And through control, one becomes. This freedom, rooted in inner mastery, is the foundation of true power. India understood that no nation can rise until its people rise inwardly. A population filled with distracted, anxious, reactive minds will always be unstable. But if the same people cultivate focus, calm, clarity, and compassion, then their external actions will be guided by intelligence, not impulse. This is why spiritual technology was never seen as separate from daily life. It was embedded in the rhythm of the day. Sunrise brought prayer or meditation. Meals were consumed with awareness. Festivals were not just celebrations but reminders of deeper truths. Every action was an opportunity to return to the center, and this return to center became a national rhythm. When the British came, they brought technology of war and commerce. But India held to its technology of stillness and perception. Even during times of suppression, the inner flame was never extinguished. The teachings were passed on. The knowledge was preserved. And when independence came, it was not just political, it was also spiritual. It was a reclaiming of the inner world. Leaders like Gandhi did not rise with force. They rose with inner conviction. Their strength came not from armies, but from alignment with truth. That is spiritual technology in motion, using inner clarity to move outer systems. Even today, in an age of speed and distraction, India remains one of the world's centers for inner training. People from all continents travel to learn meditation, breathwork, and yogic wisdom. They come not for entertainment, but for tools to manage the mind, heal the body, awaken potential. These tools are the quiet exports of India, not sold, but shared. And through them, India influences without controlling. It leads without forcing. This is a different kind of leadership, based not on dominance, but on depth. Spiritual technology also trains people in emotional resilience. In a world filled with anxiety, confusion, and division, this resilience is rare and precious. When people learn to sit with discomfort, to observe fear without reacting, to speak with kindness in moments of tension, they become stabilizers. A nation filled with such people cannot be easily shaken. Crisis will come, but response will be calm. This inner stability reflects in governance, in business, in education. It reflects in the way India absorbs shocks and continues forward. Because when you understand the mind, you understand how to manage pressure. And when pressure is managed, decisions are clearer. This clarity compounds into strength. Another aspect of spiritual technology is the refinement of intuition. Logic is useful, but it is limited. It works with known information. Intuition works with unknown potential. It senses patterns before they are visible. It feels the direction of life. And this feeling is not vague or mystical. It is the result of inner stillness. When the mind is quiet, it can sense more, and this sensing becomes guidance. Many of India's innovators, artists, and entrepreneurs operate not just from skill, but from intuition. They feel what is needed, they create from alignment. And this is why their creations often carry a deeper impact. This kind of intelligence cannot be taught in textbook. It must be cultivated through practice, through silence, through patience. This is what India has offered for thousands of years, the space to practice, not just for monks or seekers, but for anyone willing to explore. Whether in a village temple or a modern ashram, the invitation is the same. Go within, discover, refine, and return to the world stronger. This cycle of inner development followed by outer contribution is the secret engine behind India's enduring power. The concept of Dharma also emerges from spiritual technology. It is not just duty, it is alignment with one's nature. When a person acts from Dharma, they act without resistance. Their work becomes effortless, focused, and joyful. When millions of people begin acting from this state, a nation moves in harmony, not everyone doing the same thing, but everyone doing the right thing for them. This reduces conflict, increases cooperation, and builds long-term trust. And trust is power. It allows for bold decisions. It creates space for innovation. It supports risk because there is inner confidence. This confidence is not arrogance. It is the quiet certainty of someone who knows themselves. Even in science, India has drawn from its spiritual roots. The idea of interconnectedness, the oneness of all things, is now being explored in quantum physics, but Indian sages have spoken of this for centuries. The concept of prana, the life force energy, is being rediscovered in wellness and biology. But India has worked with this energy for thousands of years, not as theory, but as practice. Breath control, energy locks, awareness of subtle vibrations. These are now being validated by modern research, yet they were developed without machines, through direct observation, through disciplined awareness. This is the genius of spiritual technology. It uses the simplest tools to access the deepest truths. In leadership too, this inner science plays a role. A leader who meditates, who reflects, who stays rooted in values, brings a different energy to the room. Their words carry weight. Their actions ripple further, not because of charisma, but because of presence. Presence is the product of spiritual practice. It is the quiet power that changes the atmosphere. And a nation with such leaders moves with integrity. It does not rush. It does not collapse under pressure. It flows forward with purpose. So when we ask how India has become powerful, we must look beyond economics and politics. We must look into the hearts of its people, into their rituals, their daily habits, their invisible practices. These are the foundations. These are the reasons the nation continues to rise. Slowly, steadily, silently. It is not a miracle. It is not luck. It is the outcome of thousands of years of inner cultivation, a spiritual technology that continues to operate behind the scenes, shaping minds, guiding actions, building strength. Not from outside, but from within. In the natural world, the tallest trees grow from the deepest roots. The strength that lasts is not built on noise, but on foundation. India's rising global influence is not simply the result of sudden innovation or economic reform. It is the unfolding of a long memory, a civilizational continuity that has never truly broken. While empires have risen and fallen across the planet, India has endured, transformed, and adapted without losing its essential identity. This continuity is not about nostalgia. It is a silent architecture that supports the present while being rooted in the past. The secret is not only that India remembers, it is that it knows how to carry its memory forward in a living way. A civilization is more than its monuments or borders. It is the transmission of experience from generation to generation. Most societies move in straight lines. They build, collapse, rebuild in new directions. But India moves in spirals. It returns to ancient insights, reinterprets them, and brings them into new expression. This spiral movement has allowed it to remain relevant without discarding what came before. Knowledge was never stored only in books. It was embodied in traditions, art, language, and the way people live. Even today, a rural farmer may not know the written text of a scripture, yet his actions may reflect its principles. A child learning a dance may not study the philosophy behind it, but her movements echo that ancient rhythm. This living transmission is subtle but powerful. It means that wisdom is not owned by the elite, it flows in the bloodstream of the people. Colonialism tried to cut this continuity. It declared that what came before was backward and only the new held value. But India did not reject its roots, instead it went inward. It preserved what was sacred, sometimes in silence, sometimes in song, but the thread was never broken. And when independence came, the nation did not start from zero. It reawakened what was dormant. The freedom movement itself drew from this continuity. Its leaders spoke in the language of ethics, of truth, of duty, not just strategy. They invoked stories and symbols from the past, not to divide but to unite. This gave the movement moral power. It reminded people that they were not just fighting for land, but for the right to live in alignment with their civilizational soul. This soul is not static, it evolves. Yet its essence remains. That essence is what gives India strength today. In a world that is hungry for roots, for identity, for a sense of place, India already stands on centuries of cultural and spiritual inheritance. The clothes, the food, the festivals, the family structures, even the gestures of greeting, all of them connect modern life to ancient rhythm. This rootedness creates stability. It means that even rapid change does not cause disorientation. The outer world can move fast, but the inner compass remains steady, and a steady inner compass is a rare power. The continuity of civilization also breeds patience. While other societies often panic at short-term setbacks, India plays a longer game. It has seen invasions, partitions, famines, reforms, and revolutions. Yet each time it has returned to center. This ability to return, not to the same place, but to the same essence, is what creates resilience. It is not resistance to change. It is transformation without forgetting. Many of the world's modern powers are young. Their histories are brief. Their strategies are reactive. But India's strategies are shaped by memory. Memory not as nostalgia, but as insight. What worked, what failed, what endured. These lessons live beneath the surface of policy and economy. They shape instinct. They inform decisions. Cultural continuity also enhances creativity. When artists draw from a deep well, their work carries weight. Indian music, cinema, literature, and design are not just entertainment. They are expressions of a layered identity. They carry myths, metaphors, archetypes, and inherited wisdom. This gives them depth. That depth resonates globally. It is why Indian stories travel across continents. They touch something primal, because they are not invented trends. They are evolved truth. In this way, cultural continuity becomes a form of soft power. It makes people curious. It draws them in. It builds bridges without imposition. This continuity also creates ethical anchors. In moments of confusion, a civilization needs something to hold on to. India holds on to its values, not as fixed rules but as living principles. Non-violence, hospitality, respect for elders, reverence for nature, pursuit of knowledge. These values are not slogans, they are lived. They are taught not only in classrooms but at kitchen tables, in temple courtyards, on festival days. This transmission is invisible to data, yet it shapes the behavior of millions. A society where values are embedded in daily life is harder to corrupt. It may stumble, but it knows how to realign. That realignment, again and again, is the sign of a living civilization. Technology changes, markets fluctuate, ideologies rise and fall, but civilizational roots hold firm. India's strength lies in its ability to grow modern wings without cutting those roots. A young coder in Bangalore might wear jeans and develop artificial intelligence, but he may still begin his day lighting a lamp. A global business leader might speak fluent English and operate across time zones, yet she may still fast during festivals or seek the blessings of her elders. This blend is not contradiction. It is harmony. It is the expression of a civilization that has learned not to choose between past and future, but to carry both forward. The education system, slowly, is also rediscovering this treasure. There is a return to classical arts, ancient texts, indigenous knowledge systems, not to freeze them in museums, but to reawaken them in modern form. Ayurveda is being studied alongside modern medicine. Sanskrit is being explored through artificial intelligence. Ancient agricultural practices are being revisited for ecological wisdom. This is not regression, it is integration. When the old and the new meet without conflict, something powerful is born. That birth is happening across India, in quiet classrooms, research labs, startups, and spiritual centers. It is not dramatic, but it is deep. Even at the diplomatic level, this continuity shapes how India relates to the world. It does not rush into alliances or seek domination. It speaks with the voice of a civilization that has seen empires fall and rise like waves. That voice is calm, thoughtful, strategic. It does not seek to impress. It seeks to endure. And endurance is the mark of true power. Flash fades. Depth lasts. India's influence grows not through aggression but through presence. The presence of something that has seen much, remembered much, and still walks with grace. So when the world wonders how India became powerful, it often looks only at the surface, at numbers, technologies, elections, and deals. But the real engine is older, quieter, and more enduring. It is the memory of the river that remembers every stone it flowed around. It is the breath of generations passed from one to the next. It is the song sung in a forgotten dialect that still brings tears to a modern listener. It is the stillness behind the noise, the thread that connects temples and satellites, mantras and algorithms. This thread is not easy to describe, but it is real and it is strong. It is India's civilizational continuity, and it is one of the deepest sources of its rising power.